So we're moving from the short run, stop right away. We're moving from the short run to the long run. The short run is that period where one factor input is fixed. That means it's the short run. So the transition from the short run to the long run means we are moving from a period where we have a factor input fixed to a period where all factor input becomes variable. That is the period. So the transition between where you have constraints in terms of factor inputs to where you have flexibility in terms of factor inputs is called the long run. So this applies from the short run to the long run. This applies to the ability of a firm to transit from a period where at least one factor input, which is characterized fixed, to a period where all factor inputs become flexible. That is the transition, which is from short run to the long run. This shift can be triggered by external shocks, such as changes in taxation or money supply, forcing firms to adjust their fixed inputs to a new equilibrium in the long run. So when we talk about external shocks, we're simply talking about those factors that are beyond our control as a business or as a firm. But these things might allow us to increase our output or reduce our output. But most of the time, these external shocks are favorable. They are favorable in terms of we could have a fall or a cut in taxation. A cut in taxation means firms will be making more profit than they used to make. And that might allow them to invest in capital, invest in technology to increase or expand. So before now, like yesterday, the firm might still be operating on a smaller scale. And there's a new policy today that allows firms to be able to increase their output. That period of transition is the long run. Oh, we cannot expand because taxes are high in this country. And luckily for us, the government of this country cut taxes yesterday. So which means a cut in tax allows us to invest more because now we are more confident that the future becomes better in terms of what we would earn. And a cut in tax increases spending and investment, isn't it? Because as soon as tax cuts, especially for income tax, a fall or a cut in income tax increases the purchasing power of consumers. So consumers can demand for more goods and services. So this gives firms an incentive to increase their scale of operation. So they moved from the short run to the long run, external shock. Do you get taxation here? For money supply, the central bank might use what we call the use of base interest rates. The base interest rates. Contrasting?
Contracting the amount of supply.
No, it's contracting. It reduces supply. No, we want to increase our output. We don't contract. Expansionary, yes, expansionary monetary policy.
Yeah.
When you are increasing your output, you don't contract, you expand.
No, I thought you said what if we want to reduce money supply?
No, we are thinking about how we are transiting from the short run to the long run. So we are transiting from the short run to the long run. It's mostly about a favorable decision from government. So if government is using expansionary monetary policy, it simply means probably the interest rate. If the interest rate falls, then firms will be able to borrow more from the bank. Do you get the point I'm making here?
Yes.
So this situation will allow firms to transit from the short run to the long run. Then in the long run, why is it the long run? It's the long run because it's a period where the factors of production become variable, allowing a flexible adjustment. So production becomes easier because we can use land, labor, capital, and enterprise as how we want them to be used. What is the adjustment made? Prices and wages. In the long run, prices and wages becomes flexible because we need prices, we need wages. As price increases, firms, employees, might be thinking about indexation. Which means they might ask for more pay. Because as price increases, if demand increases within the economy, if aggregate demand increases, inflation will set in. So if inflation sets in, employees will demand for more pay to be able to meet up with their living standard. So that's what we call indexation. So in the long run, both prices and wages in the long run, both prices and wages are expected to be flexible. Do we get it now?
Yes.
Increase in price will bring about increase in wages too. That is the point we're making.
Yeah.
So now we have the isocont and the isocost graph. The isocont is just about the combination of two-factor inputs like capital and labor that we can use to produce the same unit or level of output. So yeah, the isocont and the isocost graph. The isocont graph shows the combination of labor and capital that can be used to yield the same level of output. Why do we even need the isocont graph? We need them to compare and contrast capital and labor because capital and labor are needed for production. Capital and labor is what needed for production. So we need to compare the cost of capital, the cost of labor when we are making production because it allows us to become efficient. So economics is all about how efficient we are able to use our resources. So that is the reason why we have to use the isocont and the isocost graph. So for the isocont graph, it shows the combination of labor and capital that can be used to produce the same level of output. That's the isocont graph. Then the isocost. The isocost graph shows us the combination of labor and capital that can be used, that can be purchased for a fixed amount of money. So look at the isocost graph that I wrote. The isocost graph shows the various combination of labor and capital that the firm can purchase for a fixed total cost. So what is your total cost of production when you use capital and labor? That is the point. We are combining capital and labor, yes or no? Most of the firms in the world, they use both capital and labor, isn't it? But some firms are more capital intensive than others. Some firms are labor intensive. Being capital intensive does not mean that you don't use labor. And being labor intensive, can you just stop that already? And being labor intensive does not mean you don't use capital. But we need to know the cost of combining both. That's why we need isocost. So as the above allow the firm to know the cost of factors of production they use, first must use the factor input that brings about the best efficient outcome. So it's all about efficiency. Because without efficiency, you cannot maximize profit. Most of the time, firms are able to make profits, not because they are able to raise the price, but because they are able to reduce their costs. Because when you continue to increase the price, especially if the price of the product is price elastic, if the PED is elastic, if it is elastic, you might not be able to increase the price. So rather, you have to find a way to reduce your cost. Because in reducing your cost, that is when you can increase your revenue and profits. So that is why we need the isocost and the isocont graph to show the combination and the cost of combining capital and labor. Do you get the point I'm making here? So in the cost of combining capital and labor, the most easier, the easiest one to confirm the cost is labor. Because you can know the price you pay, you can know the amount of money you pay to your workers. But when it comes to capital, it's equipment. You have to purchase the equipment, you have to install the equipment. There are a lot of costs attached to capital, unlike labor. Do we get what I'm saying or not? The cost of capital varies over time, but for labor, it is fixed mostly. I could say, okay, this is what I want to earn. I want to earn X dollars, X thousand dollars. That's what I want to earn. So the firm will know that, oh, Mr. Latif is earning X thousand dollars. No. But if Mr. Latif sees a data show, an internet, all these things need installments. So different costs are attached to them. Do you get the point I'm making here? So for any which ways, it is important for a firm to understand the cost of using labor, the cost of using capital, the cost of using both. So if capital becomes cheaper for you as a firm, then you start rearranging the way you use your labor. It doesn't mean you're not going to use labor, but it means you are going to use more capital than labor. And if, in the other hand, if labor becomes more cheaper than capital, you start thinking about using labor than capital for efficiency. So this is the isocont graph, which can be used for both isocont and isocost. The combination of capital and labor, that's isocont. And the cost of capital and labor, isocost. Do you get it? How much does it cost us for labor? How much does it cost us for capital? Because both of them will give us what? Output. So what is the cost of production when we combine capital and labor? What is the output when we combine capital and labor? Do you understand what isocont and isocost is here?
Yeah.
The combination for production. Isocost. The cost when you combine them, isocost. Is it clear? Any question?
No.